Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at Firestore. Get an idea of how to use Firebase Firestore, which is the NoSQL database that Firebase provides. So here is I go to the documentation. It talks about is a flexible, scalable database that we can use. It has also real-time features, meaning that you can get notifications when data changes. Very interesting. All right. And basically, first of all, let's look at getting started. So basically here it walks you through the process of getting started, getting data, and so on. And we are interested in iOS, and it tells you that you need to install the package, which I already did here. So you need to make sure that if you click here and you go to the project and dependencies, you should see Firebase included. Also, when you go back here and you look at the first tab, general, and you should make sure that the Firebase database is available. Okay. Choose the Firebase library, automatically download the dependencies in the background, and so on. So basically we need to be able to have the Firebase library included. Okay, so I already added it. So I need Firestore. So let's see if I click here and see if Firestore is one of them. Here it is, Firestore. That's what I need. Firestore. Add that. And I don't need these database ones. Here it is. Bye-bye. I don't need this database one. Bye-bye. So I have Firebase Firestore, right? That's what I need. There is a Firebase Firestore Swift. I don't know what it is, but let's see if we're able to build this without that. Okay, cool. So now, I'm not going to build it yet, but this is to show you how things are done. But I want to show you something on the console side. So you have to make sure that you go to Firebase database, make sure that you enable it. And what you see in front of you is the database. And the database is empty. And you see here, start a collection. So a collection is a concept, or it's a component that can hold multiple documents. So documents is a JSON object. Think of a document as a JSON object. That can be held, that's a document. And then documents can have collections. And these collections hold other JSON objects, which are called documents. So if we can create a collection, let's say, for example, we call it a note connection, right? So here it is. And now it says that I need to add a document in it. So it's just you created a collection called note. Let's add some random stuff. Let's add, for example, here, this is the message in the note. And let's say hi. Okay, here it is. Hi. And I can add, for example, created at, when it was created at, and I could say, for example, the type is timestamp, and I'll pick today, and whatever time, I don't care. So basically I go here, I click on this, let's say at that time, and this, and this, and I need to be able to click on save. It's not letting me save, so note, document ID, and I added these fields. And why is it not letting me save? So let's create another one. Let's see. Collection ID is notes. All right, next. Auto ID. Here is that. And we call it, for example, message string test. And it's not letting me save. Add another field. It's not letting me save. Let me refresh. Start a collection. Let's say notes. Next. Auto ID. Here it is letting me now. Message. All right. I'll say hi there. All right. Add another field. Created at, and add a timestamp. Here it is. Let's say today, and here's the time. Okay. Save. So basically, you see here there is notes, and there is under notes there is a document. Each document has an ID, and this is the document. All right. So you can add other inside that note. You can add another document. Auto ID. So each document has an ID. Here it is message, and we call it test, and added field, so created at, and similarly the created at is timestamp. Here it is, and here it is, and save. And you see here I have first message, second message, and so on. So this is a very simple collection of notes. So this is a collection called notes, and under it there is documents. Each document has an ID, and so on. All right. So now, going back to Firebase, how do I save information in Firebase? I would like to save information in Firebase. In order to save, the mechanism in order to save is that we just use the get a reference to the database, and then from that, in order to get a reference to the database, this is what we do: is firestore.firestore, like auth.auth, right? Firestore.firestore, and that gets you the database. And then it uses the Swift await approach, which I will try to use and see if we can use that, or we can use the completion handler approach. So let's see how we're going to do this. And then you see, notice that here they are passing the data as a dictionary, key value pairs that you can pass, and these are the ones that get stored. All right, so now how are we going to do this? Let's see. So if we go back to the home screen, and maybe in the main, I'll add a button, and whenever you click that button, we are going to store a new note, okay? Some new note to some text. So here is a button, here's that, here it is, here is the button, I added it, and then I'll add a constraint for that button. Here it is, let's say center horizontally, perfect, and then I'll drag from here to here, and I'll just say button clicked. Let's do this. Right, so I'm going to store data. It's very simple. I'm going to store some data when you click. So let's go back here, let's go back to the home screen, and I'm going to store some data. So basically what I would like to do is get access to the database. So in order to do that, I need to import Firebase Firestore, here it is. And then the database is this, let db equal to firestore.firestore. That's the database. So I have access to this is the root of the database. You know, this is the root of the data. It's here. We are here now. I want to go to nodes. So basically, in order to store data, you need something called a reference. Let a reference, let's say the reference, or where you want to store stuff, db reference equal to db dot collection. And then what's the collection called? Notes. So basically now where you are in notes. And now you want a reference to a new document. So you do go here and say document. So this creates a random reference for a new document, right? This is create a reference to the document. This is not stored on the server yet, but you have a random reference to the document, okay? So we'll do dbref dot say set data with a completion handler. That's what I'm going to do, right? So that set data, and you pass on a data document. So now I could have a data document, right? So for example, I could go here, I say let data equals, and what we had is the name, right? We had, a message, message, and let's say, for example, this is a test, right? And then comma, and we had created at, and we'll just do date. This is today's date. This is not the best way to do the date, but I just want to show that I'm able to store the date. All right. So yes, fix that. So this is as any, or I can just go here and say, for example, string any, all right, equal to that. Here it is, and we're good to go. Here it is. Now dbref dot set data with completion. So here is set data is data. That's the data we want to store. And then you press enter. This is error, and then you could check to see if error is equal to nil, then there is no error, else there is an error, and then we can print error dot localized description. Else data is stored, we'll just say data stored at, and then we can get the reference, whatever reference, which is db reference dot document ID, which is the document ID where the data got stored. You see here this db reference, the document ID is already defined when you create the db reference. It's a random ID. So basically I could go here and could tell you, for example, before storing, so we're attempting to store data at this, and then successfully stored. And basically here attempting to store data at this and attempting to store. So you see here the document reference will be the same. Well, let's see, we run here and let me open up the app. And it runs. Here it is. And notice when I click the button, your eyes should be on this side, and I click the button and successfully stored. There's another component that got added. Add another one. and got added. So basically if you click here, here it is, created at, and so on. Now and another thing to think about is that when you create them like this and you pass on the date and time, this date and time is the date and time on the client, on the phone. So if you have like a user in the United States on the East Coast and a user on the West Coast, they have different times. So when the data is going to be stored on the server, it will be stored in 2 different times. There will be 3 time difference between them. So the person posting on the East Coast is 3 hours ahead of the person on the West Coast. So their posts look as if they are more recent, right? Which is not true, right? It's just because of the time zone. If you use this date variable. So if you don't want to use the date variable, you should look for a way to tell the server, we want to signal the server to store the time at the server, right? So this is usually in the field, you use something called field value dot server timestamp. And basically what you are telling it is that this created at, I don't know the value of it, but I want the server to replace its value by the timestamp, the current timestamp on the server. Let's run this again. Instead of giving it my time, which is the local time on the phone, now we go here and you will see that it will, when I click on this, and it should go through at 2 EAK. So basically I probably need to refresh this screen. Here it is, it was at the top. Here it is, 2 EAK, and here is the time on the server. Okay, this is the time at the server. And I click on it again. So that's the best way to do this. And notice that the document ID is also part of it. I can also store the document ID as part of the document, because you see I have access to the document ID. So I can go here and say, for example, doc ID, and I can store it db reference doc ID. Now when I store that, you will see that the document ID will be stored. So let me go in here and I will delete the collection, all of it, notes, just so that you could see the data that we are writing. And now I'm going to click on the button, and now if we refresh the screen, you should be able to see the notes. Here it is. This is the document ID, and here is the document ID also stored here. Okay, sometimes you need it, because when you parse things out, you want to also include the document ID so that maybe you can delete, you can access, you can go all to a specific location and so on. And you can also add integers. Let's say, for example, you can go here. You could say, for example, count. For example, you could say count is 1. And you can also add an array of items. You could say, for example, IDs, for example, if they are arrays, and you can store them as, store it as an array, let's say, of string. Okay, so this is an empty array of string. So basically you can add, you can pass whatever. There are specific types: strings, double, integer, arrays of documents, arrays of different interesting stuff. But anyhow, so I will run this to show you that I could also store these kind of types. Click on this UJH. It is UJH. You see here there is a count, which is a number, and there is created at document ID, and then there is a list of IDs. I can also store the IDs. So basically I can send it a list of IDs. So I can do something like this. I can say, for example, the IDs are 1, 2, 3, 4. Run this. So these are IDs, integer IDs, or I can have them as string IDs, whatever I want. There it is. And button. And it's a DS. Here it is that. And you can see here are the IDs being stored. And you can see I didn't do that with much code. I just define how I'm going to store the data, create a reference, store the data at the reference. We're good to go. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.